Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So back with our fourth class that I'm covering for this is going to be Death Knight, the class that I've decided I will be playing a little bit of in patch 11.1. That's why I'm covering this. These are the specs that are classes that I generally feel like I know the most about, outside of like Evoker, which I'm not going to cover too much on. And these are specs in classes that I'm the most interested in playing in patch 11.1, so I decided to make videos on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover the class changes that have been announced for 11.1 in the Undermined patch, the tier set bonuses, and then look at the tier set models for this. Now, Death Knight doesn't have a ton of changes, so this video is going to be significantly shorter than my other three that I've done. But this is also kind of a plea to kind of continue to take a look at these specs, and particularly for Blood Decay, which is not one of my favorite tanks, but is a spec that I'm familiar with because I run with one a lot. In fact, I run with two of them in raid and run with, the main tank that I play with in keys is a Blood Decay. So unfortunately, I know their strengths and weaknesses on a level that I kind of wish that I didn't, but I do. So here we are. So, excuse me. So if you like this content out of me, if you haven't checked out my Monk, Hunter, or Druid videos, those are all going to be significantly longer. Just because they've had a lot of changes in both baked into them. Like Hunter got a complete rework on a couple of things. Druid, there's 4 specs, so there's always a lot to talk about with them. And I got a little bit into the weeds on talent builds. Sorry about that. And the way that their class tree got reworked. And then Monk is Monk. I could talk about Monk all fucking day. Death Knight's probably a little bit shorter, just mainly because there's not a lot of changes going on with this. So let's take a look at it. So developer's note for Death Knight says, currently Frosted Unholy Death Knights are incredibly survivable, often boasting lower death rates than tanks, and are far above any other specs in the game. From a fan perspective, it makes sense for Death Knights to be durable, and their kit lends itself well to it, but it currently leans too far into the unkillable direction. We fully expect Frosted Unholy Death Knights to continue being one of the more survivable specs, but should bring them closer to a more sane level. I tend to agree. Death Knight is really, really durable unless it just gets absolutely obliterated by a mechanic. It's really hard to kill them, which is weird because like you'd think they'd be more powerful in PvP, but they're not. They're pretty weak in PvP, but that's mainly because they just don't bring out the right type of pressure damage, and the comps that they're good in just aren't very good right now. Shame. But in PvE, like they're pretty damn tough, and that does have some value to it. But when the tank spec gets clapped easier than the DPS specs, I do think that means that there's a little bit of an outlier problem there. So the changes they're making here are going to be good. So we're going to take a look at this. The changes for Frosted Unholy are the same on this. So Veteran of the Third War is now a 12% stamina increase for Frosted Unholy versus 20. My understanding is still 20 for Blood Decay. And is now 6% in PvP combat versus being 10. Null Magic, which is one of their newer talents, reduces the magical damage you take by 5% instead of 8%. It is now 3% in PvP combat. And then Permafrost gives you an absorb shield of 30% of your auto attack damage versus 40%. Now, the Permafrost change I actually think is a really good targeted change. Now, you might be thinking, oh, Unholy in particular runs a two-handed weapon. Like, how much do they actually gain out of the Permafrost damage? We have to remember that they obviously have... Unholy in particular is like a big haste class. Like, it wants a lot of haste. And then it gets something like Icy Talons, which increases your attack speed. While you have Icy Talons active, which you should have up pretty much... like within 10 seconds of the fight, you should have at least a stack of Icy Talons up on a raid build. And in Mythic Plus, it's very early on. And then you should maintain that pretty much almost the entire time if you can. So, like, you always have that attack speed increase, and then you get an effect like Bloodlust. You could stack a Permafrost shield pretty quickly, even as in Holy. And it's based off your auto attack damage. So 200, two-handers hit harder. Like, if 2 one-handers hit for, like 250 each, or say like, for sake of simplicity, say it hits for 300 in the main hand, 100 in the offhand, your Unholy two-hander or your Frost two-hander was going to hit for 700 because it's swinging, or 800 rather, because it's basically not perfect, but it's like, standard swing for two-handers I think is about 2 seconds, or for one-handers is about 2 seconds. For two-handers it's 2.6. But you're dual wielding, so you're kind of always consistently meleeing in a dual wield Frost setup, whereas Unholy you had that like gap in between them. But even with all those attack speed increases and stuff like that, you were still able to get a nice Permafrost shield. This is a really nice targeted nerf that I think is a really, really good change. And Unholy gets a nice couple of quality of life changes. Apocalypse and Raised Dead visuals have been updated, and they now summon ghouls instantly rather than having them crawl out of the ground. And there's like a delay from the time that you hit the button to the time that you actually start seeing value out of it. Now, Raised Dead, which is how you summon your ghoul, the value on that is actually pretty low. But for Apocalypse, it's a really, really nice change. Now, I'm a big Unholy fan. I've loved the way Unholy has played this patch. It's got a really, really nice 45, 90 second window cycle to it that I quite enjoy. And its damage feels much more consistent. And I'm really liking it in Raid. I'm still figuring out like the best way to plot out Mythic Plus, mainly just because I've always kind of struggled with like the wound spreading, but now something like Plague Spreader is really nice, so we'll see. But I am always keen on Frost. I really like Breath of Sindragosa. I'm the weirdo that still loves it, so I'm always keen on both specs. But I really love Unholy. I don't play a lot of Blood. It's not my favorite tank spec to play. I kind of find the tank a little bit boring to play, just kind of like I do Paladin. Why Bear and Brew, like, people always look at me weird, like Bear's not boring, or Bear's not boring, but Blood is, and I'm like, yeah, I think so. You know, it's just my personal option. But defensively, I think these are probably good targeted nerfs overall. Unfortunately, I would love to have seen more. I think there's still more tuning to go on this. Unholy and Frost have both been seeing their damage kind of fall off the spectrum a little bit. They live a long time, but they're not doing a lot of damage. So I'd like to see maybe some targeted tweaks there. And Unholy still has some weird interactions with like Festering Wound still being a thing for some reason. You know, you're one of the only specs with 3 resources. And no blood changes in here is actually kind of surprising, because Blood DK does really good damage, but its healing is a struggle right now. The Death Strike change, even though they reverted some of that stuff, like, Blood DK is still in a spot where its problems are more in the spotlight. And the fact that their healing has been nerfed, I think, more than even we imagined in a lot of cases, is an interesting play. And because they're playing a much more damage-oriented build, it's highlighting those defensive weaknesses even more. Like, I think they're playing a lot more of... let me see here. I think they're playing... Let's look at this. I think they're playing a lot more Sand Lane. Oh, they're playing a lot of Deathbringer, according to Wild. But yeah, Sand Lane was the play for a little bit, but now you're seeing a lot of that. And I can go to Archon and mess around with it as well and see what is being played, but that's kind of the thing, is that they're playing a much more damage-oriented build rather than a defensive-oriented build, and it's starting to show. But the problem is that if they're not playing this damage-oriented build, they just don't do enough damage. So, like, Blood DK definitely needs some tuning. It definitely needs some tweaks. You know, I'm for tanks having weaknesses, but, like, theirs is so damn difficult to deal with. Like, if they don't have Bone Shield, they are paper, and that's a problem. Now, they've made a lot of improvements to fixing how quickly you can generate Bone Shield, but even then, like, you have to be above... You really don't start to feel the impact of having Bone Shield up until you have 5 up. And with only one way to do it on a 2-minute cooldown, to generate instantly 5 Bone Shield stacks, like, dude, Blood DK on pull is, like, the scariest tank to heal. And when you play Mist Reaver, like I do primarily, and you only have Life Cocoon, which is not a very good cooldown, oh man, it's scary. It is very, very scary. So, I'm hoping that, much like with no Brewmaster changes that have been announced in these announced notes so far, that this is hopefully only round 1. And I hope this doesn't go live, because if it does, if this is the only changes that they're making to classes, Blood DK and Brewmasters are going to be way down bad next patch. And the shield tanks in particular, and probably a little bit of Vengeance DH, are just going to thrive even more. And the tank balance is going to be all over the damn place. Again, I probably have a longer video that I can make on all the tank changes. I don't know if I will, but at the very least, I'm probably going to be talking about that quite a bit over the next few weeks. So let's look at their class sets here. So if you haven't are not aware, basically they're doing roll-based 2-piece bonuses and spec-based 4-piece bonuses. My opinion on this is I don't know if I like this. I've been on the opinion now with my monk, and in my druid video I've said this, and I'll reiterate it here. I would be okay if they got rid of tier and just made more interesting items that allow you to replace it. Like put trinket effects, like a cheat death trinket effect on a weapon that has like strength and agility, you know, one-hander for the swords ones. Like make a couple of different weapons that have like this thing and make it like a tank specialization item that has a cheat death on it. Now you're like, oh, but a DPS with cheat death is like OP. Just literally don't make it part of their loot table. They cannot get it. Simple as that. You know, or if you're not in a tank specialization, the effect doesn't work. And you can do the same for like a DPS thing. I haven't fleshed out the idea all that much. I kind of came up with it off the top of my head. But I would prefer something like that where you get more options in how you gear. Because right now, tier basically locks you out to 4 pieces minimum. 5 pieces if you want to use all 5 because you just happen to roll well and get good stats on all 5 tier pieces. But 99% of tier sets are unimpactful and weak. And then you get your ones like Blood Decay, Shadowlands, Season 3 and 4, Frost Decay, and not Frost Decay, but Destro Warlock and Survival Hunter in that same season. You get things like Guardian Druid Season 2, which is a very, very busted bonus, and tanks are disproportionately more impacted by what their tier set bonuses are than DPS and healers are, which already makes a role that is the lowest represented role even more volatile. So I'd be okay if they just got rid of it and baked power into each of the specs a little bit, particularly tanks. Anyways, that's my rant. Let's look at the blood set bonus. So Luck of the Draw is the tank bonus. Basically, this gives you, it's Survival Instincts, but I think it's Vampiric Touch. So this note is obviously very wrong. Survival Instincts is a Guardian Druid ability. So I'll double check and see what it is, but I think it's Vampiric Blood. You get 4 seconds of Vamp Blood, and then you get a 50% damage increase after Luck of the Draw activates. So you get 4 seconds of defensive, and then 4 additional seconds beyond that of increased damage. So not a ton of defensive value on this. Again, I think it's interesting that Brewmaster gets 6 seconds, but everyone else is getting 4. Kind of speaks to a lot, I think. And then Luck of the Draw has a 2-second increased duration, which makes you go 6 seconds on whatever this corrected one. Again, I think it's probably either Icebound or Vamp Blood. I don't remember. If you know in the comments, please let me know. Again, I don't pay attention that much to Blood Decay. And then when Luck of the Draw is active, Death Strike costs 2 less runic power, which is dumb. And it can strike up to 2 additional nearby enemies, which is fine. Like that's okay. The question is this just damage, or do you get the healing off of that too? Because if you get the healing off of that, then now we're cooking a little bit. But if it's just the damage, then this is fucking silly. Like, sorry, Blood Decays. Your set sucks. Frost Decay gets Winning Streak, which increases the damage of your Frost Striking Glacial Advance by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. But then Obliterate, which is the, like, 50% of your damage a lot of the times, has a chance to remove Winning Streak. So again, Winning Streak I think is incredibly stupid. Because, and some of it kind of depends on how often can you proc Winning Streak. If it's like a low PPM or something like that, then this is incredibly dumb. But the fact that, you know, you're going to be using your runic power spenders has a chance, you know, gets more damage, which is fine. I'm good with that. And notice Breath of Cinder Ghost is not included, so this kind of hurts that build. But then getting Obliterate, which is your main ability that you use, it's the thing that you cast the most in Frosty Case builds setup. Both of them really, the non-breath and the breath builds. Removing that is dumb. All right, Winning Streak now stacks 3 additional times, so instead of getting a 10% boost, you can get a 16% boost. But again, are you ever going to see that? And then while you're on Winning Streak, your Frost Striking Glacial Advance have a chance to apply Frost Scythe at 50% effectiveness, but it also benefits from the Winning Streak. So again, I think fine. Like, Frost Scythe is an ability that has been missing for a long, long time. Ever since really BFA Season 4 when the Ice Cap, Frostworm's Whelpling triple stacking build came up. That was the last time Frost Scythe was relevant in a Frost DK build. So, like, do something with Frost Scythe or just remove it completely. Again, sorry, Frosty K's. I think your set sucks. I don't have much to say on it. I think it sucks. All right, Unholy. Yours is Death Coil and Epidemic. But then Death Coil and Epidemic also has... Again, this is stupid. Like, hey, you're gaining damage on your runic power spenders, but then when you cast these to get the increased damage, you could lose that damage. The RNG variability on this is fucking dumb. Alright, casting Dark Transformation grants 10 stacks of Winning Streak. And while Dark Transformation is active, the effectiveness of Winning Streak is increased by 100% and no longer has a chance to reset. Now that's okay. So every 45 seconds, you're going to gain 10 stacks of now 6% damage. So that's 60% damage on your runic power spenders. Now Unholy utilizes its runic power spenders a lot more than Frost does. So like Unholy's is actually okay. Like that's a good way to make it so that your RNG is a little less RNG. Like Dark Transformation, I believe, I think it's a 12-second duration. So for 12 seconds, you're gaining a ton of power on Death Coil and Epidemic, and you don't have a chance to lose that damage output. Like, this is how you treat something like Winning Streak. Blizzard, take this and implement this across every melee. Find a way to do it for every melee. Because if you make Winning Streak more consistent, makes it a better bonus. So Unholy has the most potential out of this, but I still kind of hate the concept of all of this. So, again, Blood, Frost, sorry guys, you got fucked. Unholy, I'm not thrilled with Winning Streak, but at least you have a way to make it somewhat consistent. For 12 seconds every 45 seconds. Not bad. Alright, let's look at your Death Knight tier set model. This I'm assuming this is the LFR version, just because of how plain it is. It looks like it's straight out of Sanctum of Domination. Like this is something the jailer would have made you. But there's a lot of little concepts here that I think are quite neat. The normal color going into a gold and brown color. I actually like this, weirdly. This color scheme, this silver and faint purple with the blue edge lining on it is very boring. This one, weirdly, I kind of like with the green. Again, I was a big fan of Maldraxxus in Shadowlands, and that's what this reminds me of. This has, red. Anytime, again, I've mentioned this before, red's my favorite color, so anytime we can implement more red into the mix, we like it. And this more like ivory-looking color scheme, I really like this. I'm assuming this is the heroic set, so I kind of like this, actually. Would love to go chase this on my DK, and then the mythic set, your traditional black and red type setup. Some cool effects on the shoulders, so I dig that. I could get into the more minutia of the art, but there's just a lot of little things on this set that I really like. So very cool set. I enjoy this. I actually like it better than the 20th anniversary set bonus that we got. So if you're DK and you just want an easy way to Mog, I think this is a good set to Mog after. I really like this heroic version. Again, just something about the ivory and red really sits well with me. But even this what I'm assuming is going to be the mythic set, and even the PvP set's the one that bangs the hardest. I really like this one here, probably because it fits more in line with the fact that I play Frosted Unholy, and this color scheme fits more to Frosted Unholy in my opinion. But even this purple one is kind of eh. But yeah, I really like this set for DK. So overall, like I said, I hope that this for DK there's more class changes to come, more spec changes to come, because I think all 3 specs need a little bit of attention, even if it's just simple aura buffs for the DPS specs. Blood needs to be looked into a little bit more. Does a lot of good damage right now, but its defensiveness needs to be checked. Shocking. All the tanks, basically, the tanks that are struggling, which is DK, Brewmaster, Vengeance DH to a lesser extent, and a little bit of Guardian Druid. The non-shield tanks, basically, all struggle right now because they don't have the same level of tankiness that the shield tanks do. So yeah, take that as a sign, Blizzard. But we're on a good... I think this is a decent start. Your tier set looks cool at the very least, so if nothing else, you've got that to chase. Even though the bonuses are bad. If you're on Holy Death Knight, I think you're probably the most excited about your tier set bonus. And as someone that loves Unholy and plays it, I would say 90% of the time I'm playing Unholy, I'm okay with that. So, Well, hopefully I'll be doing another video because we're getting more Death Knight changes. That's the hope that I've got right now. So tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe. If you like this content, throw comments down in the bottom below. If there's any other classes you want me to take a look at and give a more outsider's perspective on, or if you just want me to judge all your tier set bonuses based off of my very limited fashion sense and mog sense, let me know. Until the next video, hope you all stay safe. Enjoy yourself. You're having fun. You keep on gaming. We'll see you next time.